Namaste and welcome to another episode of Itihasdhir.
So the book that we're reviewing today is Vaibhav Purandare's Tilak, the Empire's Biggest Enemy. And so any starting thoughts, Aditi?
I would like to start by saying it's like you mentioned in your review that, we never got to experience Tilak in all his magnanimity, in all his glory. Like, what I know of Tilak is what my history teacher told us of Tilak. Like, the first time I heard about him was in class 6, and I heard was Lal Bal Pearl. That's it. That's all I heard.
I
And I
think
knew, and he was put out to us as this extremist who did not know how to take a middle path, and he had very irrational ideas, and that's it.
I think when we talk about Tilak, there are two to three cliches. One is obviously the Lal Bal Pal trio that you talk about. The
Yeah.
second is freedom is my birthright and I will have it. And the third is the sticking of the label extremist, which I feel is very unfortunate because I mean you have the liberals, which should be called the loyalists, and then you have the extremists who should be called the Swarajas. But apparently not. Asking for freedom was too extreme. I mean, I get that really. The society that we live in today, I get it. But then the thing is that I think Vaibhav, when he came to Mumbai, he mentioned this in his conversation that there is there has been a deliberate attempt to wipe out the contribution of many freedom fighters after independence from history books altogether. And we've seen this, right? So we've seen. I don't think kids today will learn about Savarkar in their textbooks, with the exception of a few states. I don't think they will learn about people like Madan Lal Dhingra, or about people like Chandrasekhar Azad. Um, except the footnotes of history, they have got no place. And
Even in
in
the
Tilak's
footnotes,
case,
they are not done justice. Even in the footnotes, there's no
exactly,
justice done to
that
them.
is what I was coming to. And especially in Tilak's case, Tilak before Gandhi came into the picture, as in before Mahatma Gandhi came back to India, and even after that, for a very significant portion of his time, was the tallest leader of the Indian freedom struggle in India without any debate. This has been said and has been accepted in various British telegrams written by the Viceroy and the Secretary of State at the time. This has
He
been
was
accepted by Congress moderate leaders of the time
He was already a part of the Congress since the 1890s. So तब से लेके जब तक Gandhi decides to pop up, I mean Tilak had made a mark of himself. It's just that when Gandhi comes and
it's
then
not
to
just
counter Tilak,
making a
he
mark.
was
I mean, from the Congress that was so dominated by the moderates or the liberals or the loyalists, whatever you call them, Firoz Shah Mehta, Gokhale, Vacha, all of these people, to the time that they were dead scared this man was going to steal their Congress and he was going to make it into an extremist hub of sorts. And he did. I mean, he did become the supremo of Congress, especially after Feroz Shah Mehta passed away. I mean, you kind of see a very tall leader, and to relegate the tall leader to the footnotes of history, to relegate the tallest leader of India to the footnotes of history, to the point that very few biographies have been written on him, is a very sad scenario. That is one. And
take
two,
it in that aspect that how many of us, like when we talk about Swadeshi movement, how many people know that he was the pivotal point, and he was the person who was involved in the boycott movement and the Swadeshi movement. I think
So
very few people would be aware of that.
Swadeshi has a very interesting history, and a lot of that history is connected to, well, Maharashtra. Um, so Swadeshi has had like a lot of proponents, right? But
Hmm.
one of the major contributors have been one Savarkar, as a part of the Mitra Mela, later the what was it called? I forgot. Abhinav Bharat, and then it was Tilak. And even for Savarkar at that time, Savarkar was working under the guidance of Tilak, right? So it is very apparent that this was something that Tilak started. But even more than that, but even more than that, I think the most important thing here is that when we talk about the freedom struggle, and suddenly, our mind has this picture about, thousands of people on the street protesting, trying to talk about their rights that have been taken away. Those masses that the Congress used, that leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, like Nehru used later in life, were built by Tirak, right? So when Tirak arrived at the scene, the latest had been the 1857, and then uske baad everything had sort of fizzled out because of the excessive repression by the Raj. And even with 1857, a certain class of people were involved mostly, right? So there were soldiers, and then there were rajwadas and their workers and all, right?
Hmm.
With Tirak coming to the picture, Tirak tried that from the lowest rung to the highest rung, everybody should be involved. And that is why he became Lokmanya, because he became the leader of the society, he became the voice of the Indian society, right?
That was also
So,
the title given by Bapu.
yes. So, so essentially, Tirak was the person who built the crowds that were worked later by Congress and by leaders like, well, Nehru and Gandhi. And he was the first person to tell people, to talk up to people about rights, about their rights. He talks about things like, uh, for the farmers famine, he talks about the farmers rights. He translates, the famine code that the British had brought out but had never actually implemented during the famine, because that would mean cutting of taxes. And, well, God help the British if they cut the taxes. How will they sustain their empire, apparently? So, I mean, he was the person when the famine struck the Deccan regions. He translated the code into various languages. He made sure copies of it were distributed to the farmers and, peasants, uh, so that they could take the benefit of that code. They could ask the British for their rights. He was the first person to talk about rights as such. Till then, it had been about, let's ask the British. If they do it, it will be their magnanimity.
Hmm.
Here comes a person who says, no, it is not magnanimous. They have to do it because
Right.
you're right. What do you mean? It is like, if we have to thank someone for being able to speak today, or for being able to make a video today, it is our right to make a video. What do you mean you have to thank a third party for letting us make it? So he was the person who did that. And so the book delves into so much of Tirak's life. It delves into so much of other events that happened. It talks about his association with Agarkar, and then the souring of their relationship. That too over
But have you
peculiarly
noticed one
serious
thing?
financial things.
Each time there were sedition charges against Tilak, it was always after something big he used to do. When he made the people aware about the famine, uske ek saal baad, there was
Yeah.
sedition charge.
So
Once the Swadeshi
sedition was
boycott
always
movement,
applied when Indians would suddenly start asking for rules. That is
yeah,
that is non-debatable.
and
That
when when the Swadeshi boycott movement was reaching peak, so 1907, again he there was sedition charges and he was put behind bars.
Mm. So, this is, I mean, so that is what I'm saying. So British sedition तो बहुत funny चीज है देखो. They defined disaffection. So they said, what is sedition? And they replied, sedition is spreading disaffection in the society against the rulers, that is the British. Now, how do you define disaffection? Their definition of disaffection was the absence of affection. To which a
Like,
judge, a British judge himself later said, "Well, this goes against of all of this goes against all of English grammar. This goes against the language itself." And I mean, that is what it was, right? And I mean, Tirak was there. He, with his newspapers, Kesari and Maratha, he was there in the scene. He was writing his heart out, so to say. And Tirak was a very sarcastic and a very sassy person with a lot of power, right? So he used that. So I read this to you yesterday, and I'll read it today for the benefit of the crowd. Um, so Lord Curzon goes to Calcutta University and he says in his very Dudh se dhula tone, I hope I am making no false statement or arrogant claim when I say that the highest ideal of truth is to a large extent a Western conception. And Tilak retorts in his Kesari, and he writes, "If Lord Curzon only wanted to pour out his bile, he could have done it anywhere after a suitable dinner and drink session. Why go and puke at the Temple of Learning?" So I mean, Tilak was very sarcastic and very sassy about most things, and so essentially I asked Aditi about this. We won't be doing this because this will be absolutely idiotic to do, but then covering this book would probably take 2 months, like 8 to 9 sessions, um, because this is a store of knowledge. I have used yes. So, I mean, it's just too much to cover. I highlighted sections that I wanted to quote, but I figured that there were at least 30 of those. So you can't really quote them all. So the thing is that this is a book that is worth reading, that will teach you about a lot of things. So essentially, Aditi, and this is very interesting. This is the last page of the book, right? And so when Tirak Maharaj, first of all, the popularity. Tirak Maharaj was called Tirak Maharaj in Maharashtra because he became the torch bearer after Shivaji for Swaraj, for Hindavi Swaraj, right? So they used to call him Tirak Maharaj. Secondly,
okay.
when he visited other sections of the Indian subcontinent, when he went to say Lucknow, the youth there would flock to the railway station to welcome him in thousands. And not just that, when he would enter the car, they would puncture the tires, they would take the tires off, they would tie ropes, and they would pull the car because they felt that it was their right, it was their duty, right? So we're talking about an insanely popular person, a kind of popularity that has not been seen with other leaders, full stop, no matter who we are talking about. Gandhiji had massive following, but that was much later, right? And so when Tirak passes away, he has signs of delirium, and then he has trouble speaking, and then he passes away.
Because he
His
also developed diabetes and all now while he was in prison.
Yes, so his health had significantly gone down in prison. That is not a matter of debate. In fact, he'd lost around 10 kgs or something the first time he was in prison, right? So his health, obviously. But then when he passes away, his followers ask the government if they can perform his final rites at Girgaon Chapati, which is where the big Ganpatis are generally उनका विसर्जन होता है, right? So he essentially asked, they asked the government whether they can perform it at Girgaon Chapati. It is a rainy day, and may I say that today is a rainy day as well. Clearly, cloudburst, and then even then, in that situation, lakhs of people have gathered for the funeral procession, and keeping with the Hindu tradition, Tilak's body has been kept in a sitting position, which is reserved for those Hindus who've obtained the highest levels of spiritual enlightenment. So, the really big yogis, right? And that is what they realized, his followers, that Tilak was. He was a karma yogi of the highest level. And so, even his cremation, when his body was burnt, it was done while he was in a sitting position, in the Siddha position. So, that is the level of following that we're talking about. A leader that was not just a leader for the masses, who had immaculate connect with the masses, to the point people would write to them about their legal issues even when he was in jail, and he would give them replies कि क्या करना चाहिए. People would write to him about family land disputes, about bhais chori ho gaye, every anything and everything,
He
and
used to.
he would
He
reply to them.
used to be very involved about this. In fact, there was this one place where they talked about it in a negative tone, like not in this book. In earlier readings, I have come across where they were like, "Oh no, he was very orthodox in his thinking and things like that." You know, when people used to come to him for opinions and all that. But the part I would like to focus on is the fact that people used to come to him for opinions in spite of where he was, that connect was never broken. He could be behind the bars, but for the people, he was still their leader. And that
True,
is still a
absolutely. So yes, with
so
that, and with reminding you that a few papers that have been mentioned by name in the book that we will not name here, who have had so much, they've aligned with the British over anything Indian. I mean, Aditi, when you read the book, it is painful that these papers still exist in the Indian society and they have massive viewership. I mean,
and
horrible,
they have come to
disgusting.
that जो आपका जिसको कहते नहीं है they've reached that elite cream of the society.
God
So
help us. These papers have, every time Tirak has been thrown into jail, every time the government has imposed some sort of, penalty on him, this particular one paper, though, especially has every time written, the government has done its job. We congratulate it. We are very happy with the result. I mean, God damn it, just burn the paper and get it over with. Anyhow, so that with that we come to the end of our discussion, and we thank you all for being here today. We would absolutely recommend that you read this book. Take your time, like go slowly through the book. There's a lot of information, but do read it.
it will really open up your perspective and your eyes to the unknown facets as well. It will clarify a lot of things for you. So do read it. Do you should be knowing about them. And this book is your key to opening the safe for the love. So yeah. So with that, we come to the end of this podcast. Stay tuned and we'll see you again next week.